Let me check out YouTube and make sure. Let's check. This is waiting.
The reason I love you.
I don't want this. Listen to this ad, but it looks like we are live. Yep. Okay, we're live on there. Let me tweet this out. How is your break going besides dental work?
I mean, dental work was scheduled on purpose. Like I scheduled cleaning and stuff on purpose because I'm on break. It's great. I caught up. Well, I'm no longer, as of an hour ago, caught up on DCTV, but I caught up on DCTV over the last couple of days. I had like 8 or 9 episodes to watch. Watch some Defenders, watch the Mighty Ducks with my wife, which is always amazing. I love that movie. I don't care what anybody says. It's it's so dumb, but I was laughing so much. I'm not gonna lie. That's a real nostalgia one for me.
Oh, it is. Totally is. All right. So we got everything tweeted out. Speaking of nostalgia, I've got this to show off to plug our little sponsor. Like this actually is not on Marvel Unlimited. It's completely out of date in a sense, but it's the whole handbook. I remember collecting these when these were coming out, and even has like the whole Book of the Dead.
Did you know Savage Avengers was not on Marvel Unlimited for a while?
Truth wasn't on Unlimited until last year. Or Comixology. You couldn't find it.
I'm not finding Savage Avengers now either. Though I swear I saw one issue of it a few weeks ago.
I thought I saw stuff too that it was maybe they for some reason pulled it.
I don't know. Whatever. I never cared to read it.
They don't want to have it. I don't need my business.
They got plenty of stuff for my business. It's all right.
It's not like, I'm digging into the Star Wars stuff right now until Kate's run finishes up. So
there's some cool Vader stuff on there.
Oh God, I've read the Soul stuff, so I'm going backwards now, doing the Gillian stuff. So, but all right, well, looks like we are good to go. Everything's live, and we'll see if anyone decides to join us. I've already put it in the group chat. All right, and if you're ready to go, let's rock and roll. In 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover anything and everything to do with the Marvel Universe. From the comics, TV, and movies, we will go from the Mojoverse to Earth 616 to the Negative Zone to bring the Marvel Universe right to you. I'm the Uncanny Chris.
And I am your friendly neighborhood Brent.
Alliance Assemble. All right, well, we've got the official start of Brent as my new co-host.
I am here. I am ready to talk some Marvel stuff. I already missed Travis, but I'm excited to join the party.
Yeah, it's a great pleasure to have you on the team. Welcome to the Geek Ultimate Alliance officially, and we're gonna have a lot of fun. We have some kind of interesting news stories besides breaking down Falcon and Winter Soldier, but and stay tuned, listeners. We do have a post credit scene. So yeah, you definitely want to stick around for this. It's going to be a fun one.
Yep. I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be a highlight for me personally, just because of the content.
Yes, exactly. So let me get network plugs out of the way. We are part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance network, where we've got 9 shows coming at you 7 days a week, sometimes twice a day. We've got my show starting off the week, World's Finest True Believers. We are celebrating our 50th episode. I flipped the script this time to celebrate, and man from your network, Squadcast Media, Jordan Funk, he was my first guest, so he took over hosting duties while I got to be the guest looking at DC The New Frontier. So it was a lot of fun trying that out. Hopefully y'all giving it a listen and enjoying that. 50 episodes down, many more to go.
Yeah, congratulations. That's an awesome achievement.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And then we've got this show, Marvel Alliance. We've got DC Alliance. We've got Star Wars Alliance, Ranger Alliance, Slice of Film, Superhero Discussions, Weird Science, Marvel and DC Comics Roundup. I think I've hit them all. I believe so. And then we've got a Patreon. If you feel like we're doing a good job, you got 2 tiers, $1 tier. That way you can throw a few shekels our way, saying we're doing a good job. And that's our tip jar. And we've got a $5 tier that if you want to get early access to episodes, ad-free episodes, and exclusive episodes. Actually, we are working on a upcoming Patreon looking at Godzilla versus Kong that we'll be doing it for a Patreon at that point. So that'll be coming up soon. And if you can't support us that way, then we understand. If you got 90 seconds, 60 seconds, please rate and review the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Apple Podcasts, whichever podcatcher a choice may be. So, all right. So that's the plugs. I've got actually one more plug. My good buddy at Organic Price Comics. I got this lovely new omnibus. It is the Marvel Universe Handbook, completely out of date from the 80s in all its glory. I just love the art. The art in this book is, we'll just look at this. We'll look at the leader. There we go. Let's look at the leader there.
There he is. That's the kind of thing that just won't translate to digital as well.
No,
like
it
nice binding and the hardcover.
Yeah. So, but definitely Organic Price Comics. It's a new shop premiered in February. They sell graphic novels, omnibuses, collected editions at great discounts. Everything in stock and pre-orders. You can earn rewards for every item you purchase and discounts on your next order. They ship internationally and to the U.S. So our international listeners, check them out. And if their packaging is supreme, it'll survive even COVID. So make sure that you go through them. And if you do go through them, we got a coupon code for you, Marvel GUA, all caps, Marvel GUA. Get $2 off any orders. And that lets them know that you're a listener of ours, and we appreciate it. And again, check out organicpricebooks.com. So appreciate that. I know our buddy Clay ordered some hardbound Invincibles from them, so he's quite excited to get that.
That is a fine choice. If I said it was a must read, I would. That's highly recommended.
Yeah, so it'll be good. But yeah, so that's all the plugs we've got, and so let us get into the main topic, Falcon and Winter Soldier Episode 2. So we've established our players, and we finally get to see Bucky and Sam team up after being a whole episode apart.
Yeah, we missed it all last episode, and then this episode we pretty much got it for the entire thing. They pretty much just joined right on, right at the beginning, and I love it. The chemistry that these two have is so good. They're just so good together. The way they play off of each other, between the jokes and the serious, like they can go back and forth, just turning on a dime. They do that in multiple scenes throughout this, and they're just so good together. I truly love this episode.
And it's just really interesting because a lot of that chemistry we only have really seen from Civil War. Like, I don't believe they really had many scenes together even after that.
No, not. They were like in scenes together where they were both in, but they were massive group scenes. And I don't just mean portals, but even like in Infinity War, when everybody's lining up ready for the Battle of Wakanda or something. No, like Civil War was definitely the most interaction we had seen with them up until last Friday.
Yeah. So like you said, the chemistry back and forth. We'll start off with our favorite Captain America. Good morning, America.
Not my captain.
No, not my hashtag, not my captain. John Walker. The seeing him kind of reminisce. That's directly from the comics where his high school is. I think it was like Custer High School. He was at. I think that's his direct origin high school at that point. But the whole entrance from, what was it? The band playing the Star Spangled Man, to talking about how he's being used to make speeches and appearances, saying he has guts. All that is an homage to First Avenger.
Yeah, it was. He's reliving the Captain America experience where he just wants to do the job and be Captain America. And it's like he doesn't know, or he's forgetting what he's read in the history books, where when Steve started, he started the same way. He's just the poster child. He's just a propaganda tool. That's all they were wanting to use him for, it seemed, at first.
Mm-hmm. And you kind of sense that, this is what he's always going to be. How can you ever live up to Captain America? He is always, from minute one, he's always going to feel like he's got that chip on his shoulders.
And to be fair, like, the internet has shown, we've all shown, like, you're not going to live up to him. There's the Harry Potter meme of how dare you stand where he stood. There's Stewie from Family Guy's who do you think you are? Cleaning it up a little bit there. But he's trying. And you know what? To give credit where it's due, this opening scene did do a pretty good job of giving you a quick basics, a quick info dump on telling you who he is, and maybe kind of trying to win over some of the audience to get you to root for this guy.
Yeah, I think, at some points, there were parts of me saying, okay, I'm going to give the character. I think the actor, Wyatt Russell, Kurt Russell's son, is doing a very good job portraying, John Walker. He's getting all those beats down, and I kind of feel a little sorry for him in a sense of what he's kind of being put up to do. Because again, who wants to step in those shoes? But, they show the training, they show that he kind of knows what he's doing in a sense, but there's just something off. And I don't want to flash forward immediately to the end, but there's just something, and that's not knowing my comic knowledge at that point. There's just something off about him.
Yeah, it's like, are they trying too hard maybe to get us to like him? There is, like, he just looked smug last week when he runs down those steps and that guy from the DOD introduces him. And then here he's cocky. Like, he tries to play it off. Oh, I don't know about that. I don't have I'm just a regular guy. But it's like, no, they just said how, like, you tested, they said off the charts, which is technically possible because that's still on the charts, just bigger. Yeah. That's just a phrase that gets me. But it's like, he basically just beat everybody else in every category that they test in the military. And I don't know, some of the shield work he was doing made me wonder if I think we can assume eventually he's going to end up with some super soldier serum of some sort injected into him. And part of me wonders, has that actually already happened? There's things in this episode that makes me think it has. There's things in this episode that makes me think it hasn't. So I'm not quite sure where I fall on that yet. But all in all, it was a good sequence to show us who we're dealing with. We met his wife. We meet his best friend, or I presume his best friends, with Lamar Hoskins in this scene. And then we get a little bit of a training montage, a little bit about him. It did its job.
It established it. And again, if we only have 6 episodes with this whole show, we don't have time for a whole episode of an origin story. So we may get other flashbacks as we get to know John Walker, like shows sometimes do. But I think, like, this is the most we're going to see focused solely on him at this point in time. But all in the game in the chat brings up an interesting point when we head off. Bucky just kind of going into the secure. That's kind of we got a headcanon a lot of stuff that we didn't see. Buck's coming into this secure base and meeting up with Sam. It's gonna be. We kind of have to headcanon a little things. Okay, does he just have access to this? Did they talk beforehand? I kind of did the same thing that, okay, he's part of, I guess, I don't want to call it black ops, but something that this is kind of standard operating procedure.
Well, I think we can look at it 2 ways. One, there's not many facilities that are going to keep Bucky out if he wants to get in. So him being able to get on the base, like that alone, just his skill set as a Winter Soldier is enough there. But that's if he wanted to sneak in. We don't know that he doesn't already have access, because for all we know, this is the same base that he has his therapies at, because that's done by the military. It's court mandated, but it's a military person doing it and stuff. So it might all be the same area. Speculating, of course, headcanon, like you said, but I don't know. I wouldn't get too hung up on that part.
Yeah, but it's like you said, the back and forth, the whole wizards, aliens.
Yes.
What was the other part? Wizards, aliens, and
androids.
Androids. Yep.
The big three.
The big three. The big three. But I like the when they get to Germany at that point, I'm sorry, Bucky may have super soldier serum in him at that point. I'm still a little questioning, saying that's just not going to be something you easily walk away from. But again, it's super soldier serum. It just seemed like that's going to hurt a lot more than it should, than it's looking.
Jumping out of the plane, you mean?
Yeah, jumping out of the plane.
I mean, I'm sure it did, but yeah, super soldier serum. I mean, that's the shortcut to he can do this kind of stuff and get up and walk away. And he is a super soldier. He's not on Steve's level, but he's still a super soldier.
Mm-hmm. And just like you said, it's this whole buddy cop thing that they got going on really well, especially in the warehouse. What are you going to do? Go up and take them down at that point too? Are you sure there's only two? Red Wing shows that there's more than that. So they're definitely kind of going back and forth with it.
Yeah, little time in Wakanda, he comes out all White Panther, actually the White Wolf. Just the banter between them. Four more episodes. We get 4 more episodes of this amazingness. And I could watch just the two of them have a conversation, I think, and be perfectly happy.
Do Super Soldier get bones broken? I would say possibly. They'll heal pretty quick.
I don't know. I'm trying to think if we've seen it. I'm trying to think if we've seen that. Like, I'm really trying to think if we've seen it. We've seen Steve injured and hurt and stuff. Mm-hmm. So sure, they could get broken bones, but yeah, I'm sure they heal faster also. Yeah,
but that whole fight sequence on top of the trucks, we meet our quote unquote villain, our the runner of the flag smashers.
Yeah, Carly Morgenthau.
And man, she just had that smirk came on. I mean, we all knew that, from the trailers, we knew she was a bad guy at that point. We knew from a quick little scene in the first episodes that, she wasn't necessarily playing sides, but man, they are definitely juiced up. They are definitely, even when John Walker comes, he can't even stand toe to toe. I mean, Bucky had a better shot dealing with them all, than anything. That's why you kind of said that we go back and forth. Is John just a really strong guy, or is he juiced up? And yeah, you can get punched really far, but it's just like it seemed he took a little bit more to recover. He's got the athleticism, he's got the senses, but taking the punches that they were dealing, he was not too good at it.
Yeah, I feel like if he was already a super soldier, he would have held his own a little bit better. Because if you go back and look, he got some good shots off, and give him credit where it's due, that he's got some good shield work. That one move he pulled to save Hoskins, where he threw the shield underneath him as he was falling off, that was a great shot. I mean, that was a really cool move. But he really didn't do anything. The only time he really hurt any of the flag smashers was when he shot him with a gun. He really didn't do anything to him.
Yeah, that bugged me too. All in the game, that definitely. It's like what's the other truck behind him not doing anything, honking the horn? I
wondered about that.
It was like, oh, did it have to be that first truck? It could have been the second one, and we would have no idea.
I wish we could have heard him radio to Carly or something like that. Be like, okay, it's Bucky. He's the one who's in there or something like that. I mean, obviously she would have heard him open the door. That was weird. I feel like we missed something there. Like that second truck should have maybe not rammed him, because he would have been ramming the whole other truck, but he should have done something. Probably pulled out a gun and fired at him is what he should have done.
It was just too much listening to that good tunes. He was just zoning out.
He was probably listening to a podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe this one, you never know.
No, I know.
The whole thing where they're walking back and Walker and Battlestar take him up at that point. That was a necessary kind of posturing between all of them at that point, especially with, have you ever jumped on a grenade? Actually, 4 of them, but my helmet does this thing. I like the meme I sent you all that should have said, it would have been more impressive if he said, the hammer.
The grenade thing just brings to mind when Steve did it in the first Avenger. Like when they picked him to be the candidate to get the serum, and he jumped on what he thought was a live grenade, no special helmet that could take the brunt, just full force took it. I also thought of Civil War when the grenade went in Bucky's apartment and Steve covered it with the shield. Still not the same thing. I'm like, Great. You blocked it with a helmet that you knew would protect you. That's not the same, buddy. Come on.
Yeah, it's the fact that again, the fact that you're willing to put, I'm not saying John Walker's not willing to put his life on the line, but he knew more than likely that his helmet was going to take the brunt of it.
Right.
But it was, I think that was the perfect line for when Bucky says, "Excuse me, your name, Battlestar, stop the car." Please
stop the car. I'm out.
I'm not dealing with this. This is like, it's almost to this point saying, you guys are so in over your head right now. Like, we don't even know what's going on. And we know we can stand toe to toe with these guys. We feel like we can. We know we just got our butts handed to, but we have a better chance standing toe to toe with them than you guys showed.
Yeah. And this is kind of where John Walker has a point, if they were to team up, that suddenly does help even the odds, because they said there were 8 super soldiers there trying to fight Bucky, 1 super soldier, and Falcon, who's just a regular guy. I mean, obviously he's not a regular guy in the sense of a man off the street, but he doesn't have any special powers. Mm-hmm. He's got his tech, but that's about it. He doesn't have Red Wing anymore because they destroyed Red Wing. But I mean, I as much as I want to see the 4 of them have a fight with each other, just because I really want to see Walker get punched in the face a few times. They probably do need to team up at some point to take these guys on, and I wouldn't be surprised if they do.
Yeah, I think it's going to come towards the end when I'm still betting on, one of my bets is I think Walker is going to have a major boo-boo and do something very wrong that's going to start people questioning whether he's the right man for the job. And I think that at some point he's going to have to swallow his pride and follow what Bucky and Sam are doing.
Yeah, All in the Game makes a good point here. It's always the last line that gets you, that Sam said when he referenced the wingman comment, which, the part of me that likes a pun, I could appreciate the wingman comment. Cap's wingman, Falcon, of course. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, it's like he's trying to belittle Falcon and be like, well, you worked with that Captain America, so you should work with me now. It doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't. Well, it goes back to even Bucky's line when Sam called him Buck. It's like, oh, excuse me? You don't get to call me that. You're not my friend. Right. You're not my lifelong friend. We haven't had that scene where we're maybe it's the next episode where we have are we friends? No, we're not friends. Colleagues, co-workers,
Co-workers, yes.
So, but we get back, we see the Flag Smashers go and get, safe. But that I've been calling it at this point, and especially with the end credits from last week, I'm convinced it's the power broker texting our Flag Smasher leader. I mean, we don't have a name for her yet, outside of the actress's name. So
yeah, it's Carly.
Oh, it's Carly. Okay,
Carly Morgenthau is the leader. Yeah, they tell you.
Carly. Okay, sorry. Yep, sorry.
Yeah, because the power broker, or not the power broker, Flag Smasher in the comics was Carl Morgenthau. So it's gender swapped is all.
Yes.
And he was also one person. He wasn't part of an organization. Same basic idea, the whole open borders thing, just one person versus here they made it a group.
Yeah, but it's definitely the power broker. They stole, it's not vaccines.
I agree.
It's definitely something super soldier like, and something that obviously he wouldn't say if it was just vaccines, I'm going to kill you. It's something a lot more important to him or her. It could be a her, and so it'll be interesting to see, because that's a casting we don't have. There's not someone hanging out there that we have heard of, a big name or someone named for who's portraying this. That they've kept that one close to the vest on that one.
Yeah, they haven't revealed this one at all, so we have no idea who it'll be. So this is where I stay off the IMDb pages in case anything's been added to it. But I would guess that we'd see the power broker pretty soon. I feel like they're introducing us to it. Last week we had just a hint of the power broker in the credit, and now we have a text presumably from the power broker, and saw some of his men, some of his henchmen towards the end of the episode. I bet you we see him next week. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. Travis Hines is asking, do you think Walker will end up taking the same thing the Flag Smashers are on, or could we see Ross come in and give him another version of Super Soldier Serum like the Incredible Hulk? Well, that's definitely going to get into my next topic a little bit on the Super Soldier Serum. from the comics, that's how Walker gets his super soldier serum for the Power Broker.
Mhm.
That's how I believe Torres,
Torres from the Power Broker and Battlestar.
Yeah, Battlestar all get their super soldier up serum from a Power Broker. So yes, I think
Torres is different because he like gets like natural organic wings. Like he looks bird-like. So his is a little. It's not the same thing. Whereas the others just get a super soldier serum.
Yeah.
Just
so I think it's definitely part of it. I think he wants to even the odds because I think he's going to get either his butt handed to him even worse and realize that he can't stand a toe and needs an edge. You know, there's only so much that a quote unquote regular soldier can do. What do we got here? We got Charlie Randall. So glad to see you as a member of the network. Just wanted to let you know, Brent, that I started the Invincible series with zero expectations. Wow, the cast is stacked.
Man, you don't even know what you're in for. You don't even know what you're in for. I'm glad you're watching it. Yes. That show is. Oh, I was very pleased with that show. And then the comics, you don't know what you're in for.
Yeah. So thank you for joining us, Charlie.
Thank you.
But when we get to the scene I've been kind of wanting to get to talk about more in depth is Isaiah Bradley. You know, last week we knew Carl Lumley was cast. We knew what we assumed would be his grandson Eli was cast, and especially in the end credits last week pointed out that was an image of Carl Lumley. And so I said, well, I think Isaiah Bradley's coming, and here he is. And this is a lot bigger, and I've seen the show 3 times, and I think I'm hoping, but I think this is a much bigger deal than just, we had a black captain, quote unquote, a black Captain America. I think this has major ramifications for looking at the MCU as a whole.
It certainly has the potential to do it. And I'm really hoping for number one, just more of Carl Lumley. I don't want that to be his only scene in this show. I would love to see them go back to him and learn more about him. I'd love to find out, and maybe we will. Does Zemo know about him because of how all the research he did? Does he know about him? I want to see, in a perfect world, I'd also get to see a flashback. Show me a little bit, just one mission, even just 5 to 10 minute sequence of him in that Captain America suit that in the comics he stole, and that's why they imprisoned him. Now we don't know why in the show why he was in prison for 30 years, but I'm going to assume it's some BS reason along the same lines. And they're just ignoring the fact that he survived what was supposed to be a suicide mission when it was supposed to be a whole unit of men with powers like him, and he still did it by himself. Isaiah Bradley is a really cool character. He's great in the comics. I really want to see a flashback with him as his time as Captain America.
I would really hope so. Again, we talked about last week. I'll bring it up in Truth, Red, White, and Black. It came out in 2003, written by the late Robert Morales and illustrated by Kyle Baker. Again, we changed it in the MCU in the sense of timelines, but it basically is taking the idea of the Tuskegee experiment and putting it as super soldier serum. That when developing the super soldier serum, they were testing it on African-American soldiers to see exactly Morales, and he was very vocal on this, positioned that the U.S. government and the Nazis had more in common than they would care to believe. In both systems, they were in business founded, trying to class control, and so trying to weed out those that couldn't survive and necessarily kind of use the African-American soldiers to do this. And you see his artwork in it shows it wasn't just giving them super strength, like it altered them physically, sometimes in quote unquote really weird ways. And it wasn't done for comic things. Like this destroyed their lives. And Isaiah Bradley from his unit, he's the only one to survive.
Sawbone in the chat makes a good point. That flashback scene, maybe it should be when he meets Bucky and he takes off half of Bucky's arm. Isaiah is, it's dark. Like Steve really suffered like with learning through, like realizing that like just because it's the government, it doesn't mean everything they're doing is on the up and up. You know,
Mhm.
like he had full faith in them in First Avenger, and then he kind of got a bit of awakening in the Avengers movie, uh, at least with Shield specifically, and then Project Insight and the Winter Soldier and the Sokovia Accords. Like he's really learned to like question authority and stuff.
Yeah.
And you know, they tell us here he didn't know about Isaiah, but you got to think that had Steve known about Isaiah ahead of time, one, he would have gone and had a conversation with the man, and two, that would have just been one more thing that he was strongly questioning. And I just now thought of, can you imagine a conversation between Old Man Steve and Isaiah? I mean,
Oh yeah. I mean,
oh,
I know they do it in the comic, and it's very personal to Steve. I agree. There is no question that Rogers, should he have known, like, would have sought justice for him, and would have tried to seen it as the burden of, himself, like him as a white man. Because again, even though we know Isaiah, this was a Korean War when he met Winter Soldier, there's nothing to say that Isaiah Bradley is not older. Like he was around during World War II. There's nothing that says that he wasn't. The super soldier serum, as we see with Steve, slows your aging process down. And so he could have been around during the testing at that point. It could stand to reason at that point. And since he is not, quote unquote, at that time, the one that they want to put in front of America, they don't want to put parade him around or anything like that. They will put him in the field when it's necessary, and they can have deniability. And that's what it sounds like they did, and used him. And when he, quote unquote, didn't follow the plan, whatever it was, they put him in jail. And like you said, in the comics, it was because he stole the Captain America suit. Again, stupid reason, but again, to shut him down. But, there's a lot here. There's a lot here to unpack.
I mean, the ramifications just for Steve, for Sam. I mean, for Sam, realizing that there has been a Black Captain America before, this gives him somebody besides Steve that he can look up to and connect with in a different way. Because as he kind of alludes to, talking to Bucky during the therapy scene later, Bucky and Steve just wouldn't understand what Sam is going through, because they're, as the very next scene, or as the end of this scene, however you want to classify it, is going to show us, his experience as a Black man in America is very different from what the others experience. And Isaiah would be able to speak to that, to talk to him on that level as someone who's lived through it all also.
Yeah, it's our buddy Travis Dell in the chat would love to see what Cap's reaction was when he went back with Peggy, and if he found out what was actually going on. That could have been interesting if you found out. Like you're saying, the encounter gets to the root of Sam's hesitation to take up the mantle of Captain America. How do you represent a country that has never represented your people? It's a question that Steve Rogers and now John Walker never had to consider. They don't even have to think about it.
No, of course. And I mean, John Walker, looks like your typical blonde-haired white guy. And I mean, do you think that even that, let's be honest, they didn't consider any Black men for that role. They probably didn't consider any women for that role. No. They wanted somebody who looked like Steve did, but they didn't know, or they didn't think about, Steve didn't get the part of Captain America because of what he looked like. He got the part because of who he was. And he's a good man, as Erskine said. That is who he was, and that is what Sam has. That's the quality that Sam has that so far I don't think Walker does. Walker may be ultimately on the good side, but he's not exactly he might be a good guy in the sense of good guys and bad guys, but he's not a nice guy. He's still a jerk. He's still willing to throw his weight around and throw his status as the government around, like when he's talked about Red Wing, when they hacked Red Wing earlier. And I'm convinced that they were listening in on conversations, because they referenced the big three conversation that we had never heard before. And so, and Isaiah, I'm putting in a little bit of what I know about him from the comics, but he is like Steve. He is a good guy, like a genuine good person. And I don't know. It would be a real shame. And frankly, a big negative, I think, on the show if this is the last we saw of him.
Yeah. Travis had pointed out, if Isaiah's story, if Sam knew it, he might have not given up the shield. on the game, but aren't you supposed to keep politics out of the movies and TV shows adapted from comics that are inherently political and full of social commentary? Of course,
He gets
again,
it.
it's the funnies, it's the funny pages at that point. And this book, this miniseries, Truth, was very controversial then, and in people, because again, it puts the history of Captain America and Steve Rogers into a very different light. And it doesn't necessarily take away from Steve, because Steve at the, proposed didn't know, and trying to find a way to rectify it, even though you can't give a man his life back after being put in jail. It's in looking at the possibility, I'm thinking it's very possible the entire modern concept of superheroes in the MCU could have been, if a theory that I kind of proposed, if Isaiah Bradley was around and was truly one of the test subjects before Steve got the serum, the whole entire MCU may have been built on the back of a black man who was imprisoned, then discarded the slums of America. It's difficult. It's not so difficult to believe. That is, after all, if in America, a country built on the backs of slaves who were freed and were made slaves more to American prison system, far too many more, in the ghettos, and they're trapped in at that point. I mean, Isaiah Bradley represents a lot of the history in just one person, a huge history of injustice done to African Americans.
He does. And I'm sure that this scene bothered a lot of people, but I think it's maybe bothered them for the wrong reasons. It's like, it's okay to admit we're not, as a country, we're not perfect. We have made mistakes. It's objectively true. Like, there have been horrible atrocities done under the USA banner, and all Marvel did when they created this character in 2003 was incorporate some of that into the comics, into this fictional world. And now we're seeing it into the MCU, giving it a much wider audience than the Truth miniseries ever had before.
And even think about within the MCU, we know that Howard Stark and Bruce Banner both attempted to replicate the super soldier serum. Tony Stark and Banner got pointed out, name drops by John Walker early in the episode. But the mention of the two Avengers is more than just a service. Both characters are uniquely tied to the legacy of the super soldier serum, a legacy that we now understand is at least in part built on Black suffering. While there were still gaps in history to be filled in, Howard Stark's wealth and subsequently Tony's came from government contracts, which included the creation of a new super soldier formula. Likewise, Banner's success came from attempting to replicate the serum, which eventually turned him into the Hulk. So again, if he was around prior to Steve getting it, this, like I said, this has a lot more ramifications.
And I could see them, in the comics, in the comic version, Isaiah was around at the same time as Steve. Steve was the poster child. Steve was the one that the public saw. Isaiah and his unit were being tested on at the same time. And it was more of because the original scientist, the original creator was killed, that they were trying to replicate it so they could have more Steves. And they wanted to test it on this unit of black men first. And I could see them doing something like that. We see Hydra kills the creator of the Erskine in the first Avenger. And so they were trying to create more. So they wanted to have more. And that's when, and so it wouldn't surprise me if we learned that Isaiah was around during World War II, like Steve was. And that, maybe they obviously got close because he's still alive. He's still relatively young. He's younger looking than he should be. And I don't know. There's so much here. It's like you guys could do like a full 2 or 3 episode miniseries just on Isaiah Bradley off the side. And I don't really expect that to happen. But like I said, I really hope we do get that flashback, because I want the Bradley to be more prominent because of what that means for Eli, his grandson, whom we met in this episode, not by name. We see his name's in the credits, but we know who Eli Bradley is in the comics, becoming the Patriot. I want to see that happen. I'm convinced it's going to, but I do want to see that happen as well. And this just moves us down that line.
I agree. And it shows, I think it's going to lead to why John Walker will inevitably fail in his role as Captain America, and why Sam, in order to succeed, will have to redefine what Captain America means, both in the present and historically. this is the truth that we're going to need to see on screen. And the interesting thing is, and I kind of told you this offline, but I want to bring it up, that series Truth, when Disney bought Marvel, Truth was, it was out of print. It was not online until last year. It showed up on Marvel Unlimited and Comixology for the very first time. So it's about time. But again, that's how this series has just now come forward again. And I again, definitely, I can't encourage everyone else to read it. It's an eye-opening experience.
Yeah, it's really good. And I read it when it first came out, and then I don't think I had read it since, to be honest. Maybe I read it after the whole thing was out and I got a trade, or I'd have to go look at, do I have the individual issues or a trade? I don't remember. But I read it when it first came out, and then I just last weekend read it again on Marvel Unlimited. Mm-hmm. And if you want to take it at the superficial level of like, it's just a good story, it is. It's a good story. It's a good, entertaining story. It's very stylized art. It's a different kind of art than maybe what you're used to seeing, but it fits the story so well. And then you can look at it, and there are definitely deeper meanings and deeper thoughts to pull from it. Could not recommend it more.
Yeah. But moving on from that, again, hopefully I'm with you. I want to see more Isaiah Bradley. I want to see just a little bit more. That look back that Sam has back at the house leads me to hope that there's going to be another interaction again. But yeah, we get the scene where they get stopped by the cops. We get a very unfortunate thing that does happen in America. I'm not saying neither one of us are saying all cops are like this. This is just this happens.
Mm-hmm. It does happen. They harass Sam just because he was a black guy. Because
they look at it, is this man harassing you, referring to Sam harassing Bucky? When it's really like, these are two guys talking loudly in the street. They're having an argument. No one's fist fighting or anything like that. But it brings up the point. And then I like the kid saying, it's Black Falcon. What do you mean, like black? I mean, it's interesting because, again, how many characters until Falcon came along that were named Black Panther,
Falcon Black Lightning. He might be he's either the first or second like mainstream superhero who is black but doesn't have black in the name.
Yeah,
like Black Panther. I was trying to think of others. Like there's the Black Mariah character from Luke Cage. There's Black Lightning. There's so many other black characters that's just black in the name. He was like one of the first that didn't. So it was kind of, there was a joke, but there's a little bit of commentary too. And it's not lost to me that while the police were thinking it was the black man that was harassing Bucky, who they end up arresting, the white guy, because it was the white guy that had a warrant out for him.
Exactly. And how they how they basically, like you said, a warrant because he missed his quote appointed therapy session. But that therapy session was interesting. And I think that's probably next to the Isaiah Bradley sequence. That was my favorite because it had the funny moments, but when it came down to it, Bucky saying, I'm angry at you so much for giving up that shield because the only Steve believed in you. He trusted you with that. He wanted you to take it on. He didn't ask me to take it on. He asked you. And Steve's the only one who believed that there was good in me, that I was better than the programming that I have. And if you gave that up, what does that say about me? Was everything I said was a lie?
The MCU there's a handful of scenes. I think they're great at switching tones and balancing tones throughout movies. But there's a handful of scenes that come to mind. Rocket and Thor talking in Infinity War, just the two of them, while Groot's playing his video game, or the Guardians of the Galaxy like circle up moment where they're all standing, a bunch of jackasses standing in a circle at the end of the first Guardian, or towards the end of the first Guardians movie. There's a few scenes like that, and I think this is one of them where they switch back and forth between serious and humorous so well throughout the scene. It's just one scene, and at one moment you're just cracking up laughing at the absurdity of Dr. Rayner telling them to physically get closer as they have to interlock their knees between each other like a zipper, to the seriousness of, if he's wrong about you, he's wrong about me. And for Bucky, Steve, he can't afford for Steve to be wrong about him because Steve's the only person who ever believed in him. Nobody else did, including Sam. Nobody else believed in him. Only Steve did. Yeah,
and I think it's important. I think that kind of gets Sam to understand that what's going on, like at least where Bucky's coming from, and But we get, I think besides the last thing, that we see that part when they go back outside, when they're freed at that point, they see John Walker and Battlestar Lamar, and he said, let's team up. And he said, no, you got red tape. We can operate outside of law and kind of, they're black ops, but they're really not black ops. They're not sanctioned, but they can get certain things done. And it's like, well, fine, just stay out of my way. I was like, okay, there's the U.S. agent I know and appreciate from the comics. He's fine. It's basically, it's like, if you're not with us, you're against us. Stay out of our way.
It did raise to mind one question that I had. The Sokovia Accords. We know that they're still in effect or at least they were still in effect as of the moment of WandaVision, because Jimmy Woo referenced them and referenced them as a current thing. I want to know, Sam was working directly with the military. Like we saw that last episode. Bucky was pardoned by the president. Court mandated terms of his pardon includes this therapy. I want to know if they were forced to sign the Sokovia Accords as well, or if they chose to at this point, because neither of them signed it back in 2016, we know, but did they sign it now in 2023? Yeah, 2023 when this is taking place. Because if they did, Sam may not quite have that same freedom that he thinks he did, because he probably does have a little bit of red tape on him.
Mm-hmm. He might, and it's one of those things that we're not supposed to ask too many questions about. It seems, but it's almost with that warning though. You have a little bit of leg room. We'll let you do so much, but we will come crashing down on you if you exceed that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All in the Game brought up a point saying he saw a YouTube reviewer fail to understand the commentary of Black Falcon comment even after it was explained to them. Thinks having black characters as black in their name just sounds cool. That's all I got to say to that.
Yeah. It's, I didn't see what he's referencing here, who the reviewer is, and frankly, I don't need to.
Yeah.
Some people are just willfully blind to it, and I don't know. To me, you can appreciate the humor of him turning it around on that kid and calling him, "Are you black kid now?" while at the same time recognizing the deeper meaning that is there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But a good point, and not everyone's going to get it. But they come up with the idea that the best person to kind of talk to about what's going on and knows everything is Zemo. So it kind of fits, halfway through we get our first chance of Zemo, and this is our wild card. We know he wants to end superheroes. He doesn't want the world to go superheroes, but we know there's probably going to be some sort of prison, either break or he's going to escape. But we get our first look at him, and so we know he's coming to the next episode. And I caught that little cell reference that his cell number that he's in, apparently it's the same cell number as Princess Leia in Star Wars.
I would never have caught that.
Yeah.
I don't know Star Wars enough to have caught that, to be honest.
Just a little bit. All in the Game says, get the feeling the MCU might just ignore the Sokovia Accords and just focus on the blip going forward. I think it's going to be a balancing act. I think that, yes, initially, yes, the blip is the most immediate thing. But as these quote unquote powered individuals start becoming more and more present, it's going to be coming back with a vengeance.
I would have totally agreed with this had Jimmy Woo not mentioned the Accords in the present tense during WandaVision. Mm-hmm. Had he not brought him up there, I would have totally agreed that, the Accords happened in Marvel time and MCU time in 2016. Infinity Wars happened. The blip has happened. I would have thought they'd been thrown out as well. But I think there's still the law of the land, if you will, the treaty or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. So, but we'll see what happens next week. We know we're getting Zemo. We'll see exactly how he's going to get out and what the conversation is going to be, and see what kind of side he's kind of fallen on. Because I don't think he's definitely not going to be totally on Buck and Sam's side, but I don't think he's going to totally be on the Flag Smasher side because they're powered up.
Bucky and Zemo. Zemo screwed over Bucky hard in Civil War, and I really, really want to. I mean, I love that movie. Like that movie's really special to me, and I want to I'm so excited that like this is a villain they didn't kill. So often in the comic book movies, the villain ends up dying either by their own hand or by the hero. And I'm like, yes, he survived. They brought him back. I am so excited for this. Just a few more days.
Yeah, Sawbone says, so Zemo's still being in prison. It's safe to say he wasn't blipped. I think we might get our answer next week.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, or he was just recaptured because this did take 6 months later. I'm going to guess that's a good guess, though, that he wasn't blipped.
Yeah. If he is, they all came back to where they were. So he didn't go too far at that point if he was blipped from prison. But yeah, we'll see. We'll definitely see next week. So let's take our first ad break. So listeners, we're an ad-supported network. So these ads help keep the lights on in the Geek Ultimate Alliance. They can be a bit loud. So you got to turn that volume down, give you that 3 count. So you turn that volume down so that you don't blow out those eardrums. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we're back. All right. So we've got some news. Got a little bit of news, not too much at this point, but we punted this from last week. We kind of little bit mentioned it, but let's go into a little bit of it. We've got a spinoff show, and before the main show takes off, Hawkeye spinoff series about deaf Marvel superhero in the works at Disney Plus. Deadline has confirmed, and we know Deadline, Disney's not going to say anything, but they have confirmed that Hawkeye spinoff series centering around the series character Echo is in early development with Ethan Coen and Emily Coen set to write and executive produce. Echo, aka Maya Lopez, is a deaf Native American superhero who has the talent to imitate any opponent's fighting style. She also travels in the same circles as Daredevil, Moon Knight, and the Avengers. Last December, Deadline reported Alcoa Cox had been cast to portray the character for the Hawkeye series in her first major feature. She is a member of, in real life, she's a member of the Menominee. I'm going to totally butcher that, so my apologies. The Menominee tribe. It originates in Wisconsin, and she was born deaf. So they cast her for this part. From what I understand, they were really looking for honoring the ethnicity and who Echo is.
Have you read the Bendis Daredevil run?
Yes, very much so.
That is one of the great runs for Daredevil, for a character who arguably has had more great standout runs than anybody. I mean, he's right up there. And Echo technically wasn't created by Bendis, but he really brought her in and used her very heavily. And, basically, as I remember it, Kingpin killed her parents and then raised her and used her to infiltrate Matt Murdock's life and Daredevil's life. And obviously this is going to be a little bit different because it's not like we're going to have the Daredevil connection, but she's a really cool character. And she was brought to prominence in that run and moved beyond it. Bendis brought her into the Avengers. She took the guise of Ronin for a while. When the new Avengers happened and Ronin joined and nobody knew who it was, and there were all these questions about who it was, they had asked Daredevil to join, and he said, no, but I have someone who can help you. I'm going to send you someone to help. It was Ronin that he sent, and you eventually find out it was Echo. And this is in the comics, of course, all before Hawkeye took the Ronin guys for a while after House of M. So things are a little different here, of course. I was really excited. One, new spinoff show. Great. Sign me up. New character. Even better. Echo is just a really cool character. She's a really cool character. And every story she's in just has really crazy but beautiful artwork. And so I just have a lot of good memories of reading her. I've not read anything with her in a long time. So I'm now all right, let's put some of the Bendis run back on my list to go back and revisit. Oh, darn. Woe is me.
Oh, darn. Yeah, you're right. No, not created by David Mack and Joe Quesada.
Okay. Yep.
For that. And it's David Mack, the artwork. David Mack does at that point. But, it's on the surface, Echo, it seems like Echo is going to play a bigger role in the MCU. It's our first character that is going to and it obviously says that she's going to be a breakout star from Hawkeye, that this is our first spinoff show from a Disney Plus show that hasn't even aired yet. There's a lot of confidence. And I want to ask in the sense of like, what does this say with her character in Hawkeye? Like, what is she already going to have her powers? Is she going to develop them? What do you think?
I think we'll see her develop them. My guess would be that we'll see develop her abilities. And I mean, her abilities, she's kind of like Taskmaster, right? Like she can see something, she echoes it. She can basically do the same thing. I think we will see that in Hawkeye. I think we will maybe get some flashbacks, some origins in her spinoff show. I still think this is Jeremy Renner's swan song, so yeah. I'm not expecting like her to get like a whole episode devoted to her or anything like that. I could more just see her coming in, playing her part, and then at the end, if they did these kind of things in the shows, which they didn't for WandaVision, who knows, maybe they will get one of those Echo will return or Echo will return on Disney Plus or something like that to learn more about her.
Yeah, or we could get our Easter egg at the end, our end credit scene showing where it's going to be. But it's going to go to it's not officially gone to series, but they're developing it. But more than likely, it is going to at that point. But where a lot we see Miss Marvel has already been saying that she's going to have her own series and she will be in Captain Marvel 2. Do we see Echo making that same jump at some point? And how and where does she make this jump?
To the movies or to Captain Marvel 2?
To the movies, not to Captain Marvel 2. I was just using Miss Marvel as an example. Like, we know she's got her own show and we know she's going to be in Captain Marvel 2. Do you foresee Echo having that same path and jumping into a MCU movie? And what do you think the vehicle of an announced is it going to be an announced property, or is it one that's later to come down in Phase 5?
Honestly, I kind of expect every single title character to make the jump to the movies, to have an appearance in the movies. I think we will see She-Hulk in the movies. We know we're going to see Miss Marvel. I think we're going to see Moon Knight in the movies. And yes, if the show happens, I think we will see Echo as well, probably in a team-up movie, probably in like a New Avengers or something like that. Maybe they won't all be in that movie. Ms. Marvel, we know, is in Captain Marvel 2. She's not in a New Avengers movie, but that's where I would expect to see Echo, in some sort of Avengers movie. Avengers for the adults, not young Avengers, I think is where we are likely to see her.
Well, it's going to be interesting because we know Kate Bishop, even in the comics, and Haley Steinfeld is not she's older. She's not necessarily like kid-like or things like that. So, I can't remember the age of the actress at that point. So it's going to be interesting and so, yes, Kate Bishop is in Young Avengers, but I think she's one of the oldest people on that team. So it doesn't necessarily preclude Echo being on it, but I could see Echo. She could be one of if they're going to revamp the whole Defenders idea, and she could be part of one of the Defenders.
Oh, I like that idea. She would fit really well with that idea.
Like her, Moon Knight. We still got a couple of other players on the table that could kind of reform
Daredevil. Daredevil. There's the rumors of Daredevil coming back. Allegedly, he's already filmed scenes and he's done wrapped for Spider-Man No Way Home. Yes, some sort of new take on the Defenders, whatever they would call it. Use the Defenders name for all I care. That's a really good idea.
Yeah, that's at least my future at that point. I think it's going to be an unnamed property, and I think it's probably going to be Defenders. I don't, it would be really cool to see the Defenders on the screen. I just think, like you said, Moon Knight, She-Hulk, all these other characters could lead up to their own kind of team up. So, be interesting. Let's see. On the game, Kate Bishop and Patriot to lead the Young Avengers. That's kind of how it goes back and forth a little bit in the comics.
Yeah, pretty much it's those two. I mean, they argue over it, but yeah, it's those two.
So, but yeah, we'll have to see exactly as this starts plays out. I mean, we already know who our Echo is going to be, so we'll see exactly. Maybe we'll get some announcements as this goes deeper, who's writing it and who will be kind of leading it, who will be the showrunner for it. Well, we already know who's going to be writing it at that point. So with the Coens at that point, but an executive producer, those are our showrunners. So we will see exactly what we get with more casting and see if anyone from Hawkeye will continue on. But yeah, so our next one is going to be interesting. It's going to be focused on comics and get into the business side. I know, Brent, you and I do like talking about the business side of this kind of stuff in behind the scenes. So this was kind of a big deal. Marvel came out last week. It kind of came out of nowhere. A few people that I know in retail were giving me kind of hints that Diamond was giving them a heads up that something big was coming down that last week, and it was big. Marvel Comics has exclusively kind of sort of ended their exclusive relationship with Diamond Publishing to release comics to the direct market as the sole shipper, and have now partnered exclusively with Penguin Random House. So what happened was Marvel Comics said that they were no longer going to be distributing comic books to comic stores in North America through Diamond Comic Distributors. Diamond is, until recently, the past year, they were the only game in town to distribute to the direct market, your comic book shops. Your book market is someone usually completely different. It's never Diamond. But they said we're ending our relationship. We will be exclusively Penguin Random House as of October 1st. Will be the one who will be shipping books to the comic book shops. Now, they did something interesting, though. They said Diamond is no longer going to be our exclusive partner, but comic shops can still order through Diamond to get books to them. So it's kind of like we're ending your exclusive, but we're still going to working with you. And this has been a long time coming with Diamond. Like, this started last year when DC basically said, we are out of the Diamond business. We're no longer going to be using Diamond to ship our stuff. We're going to they went with like 2 or 3 other places, and then they went with Lunar. The thing about Lunar is they actually owned 2 major competitors to comic book shops, In Stock Trades and DCBS. So they had to build an entire structure for Lunar to be a distributor. Unlike Penguin Random House, that's all they do. They're not a competitor. All they do is distribute books and periodicals to booksellers and now soon to be comic shops. So DC's leaving Diamond completely. They don't deal with anything with it. Marvel's still having a relationship with them, kind of, but this is ending a monopoly that Diamond's had for a very, very long time. A lot of complaints about Diamond, besides damaged books, not on time shipping. It's been in Fanboy Clay says Diamond sucks the souls out of publishers and local comic shops. But we have a lot of division on this one. I know a lot of people were upset with DC when they did this because, again, they view Lunar as a competitor because they have 2 of the biggest ones that compete with local comic shops, and they were very wary about sharing that information. Penguin Random House, they said that this was a good move for them. They're innovative. They've got the best warehouses. There's a lot of positives on Marvel's side from a business angle.
There is, and I feel like I gotta, before talking about any of this, preface with like, me personally will not be affected by this because I'm out of the physical game. I'm all digital, and at this point, I'm using services like Marvel Unlimited exclusively. Like, I'm not even buying them week to week anymore in Comixology. I'm all streaming. So, but it's still interesting for me to follow. And I was reading a little bit about it, and it sounds like Marvel talked to Random House before they merged with Penguin to become Penguin Random House once before in the early 2000s about the potential of doing this, of breaking away from Diamond. What I do remember from Diamond is it always seemed really hard to find information out. Information like what books were actually coming out. You could look at like solicitations that Marvel and DC put out, or that Image or whoever, but like an actual like concrete, easily readable list, I could never find one. Maybe it existed and I didn't know where to look. Hopefully they still do to this day. It's called previews at that point, and so it just became kind of that was their main thing. But now with DC leaving, and you cannot find it necessarily outside of when they finally do release the information. Right. When COVID hit last year and Diamond said, okay, we're not distributing anything, we know why they did, but it kind of feels like, looking back, like that was the straw that broke the camel's back, or maybe that was the excuse that DC wanted to leave them. Maybe DC already wanted to do it and they were already figuring out their options, but now they had a good reason. Mm-hmm. Marvel, you look at the history of this, Marvel's talked about leaving Diamond before multiple times, and they finally did it. I think it's ultimately, I know part of me thinks it's a good thing to break up what it effectively was a true monopoly. You could, for a comic book shop, you could not order from anyone else. You had to go through Diamond. Mm-hmm. And now at least there are some options that you could make an argument. Well, it's a monopoly for Marvel stuff, but I don't know. Like there's DC with Lunar, Marvel with Random House. What's this going to mean for Image Comics? What's this going to mean for Boom Studios? What's this going to mean for your other smaller imprints?
Yeah.
This is a huge switch. And I'd be curious to talk to some retailers to find out like how much of a pain is this going to be for you, because you're now Diamond is a wholesaler, so you can still order from Diamond because they're going to order Marvel books from Penguin, but it's like, are the Marvel books now going to cost more if you do that through Diamond because now Diamond has to pay more for them?
That's the thing that some retailers are very loyal to Diamond and they're going to stay with them at that point. So they did say they're still evaluating what this is going to look like, how it's going to change discounts and things like that. Talking to my friend who runs the Organic Price Books, and also listening to another big distributor did a chat with Near Mint Condition on Sunday, who runs Cheap Graphic Novels. They're both saying, we've already applied for Penguin Random House because they're going to go with them at that point. They have a lot of positives with Penguin Random House, what they're promising: devoted sales reps, possibly better shipping rates, if not free shipping. Possibly they're still working out those ideas. The discounts may be a little less, but it's more offset by the benefits. So it's almost like wait and see. And again, their shipping, they're very much promoting like, we can get this out to you. And again, for those of you wondering if you're going to get your books to the comic shop, they are still saying Marvel Comics will still show up on Wednesdays. Nothing is changing for that. They will devote themselves to that. DC, on their hand, is coming out on Tuesdays, and it's been like that. And they made that change when they changed over for that. So Wednesday is a new Wednesday for DC, but they have said that they are going to be devoted to Wednesdays. So comic shops are kind of a little bit mixed. Some are going to stay with Diamond. Others are going to go with Penguin Random House.
I wonder how that switched. I never really thought of this. I knew DC was Tuesdays, but like for me, for all of us, Wednesdays was comic book day.
Mm-hmm.
I would go to the shop on Wednesdays and I would pick up all my books, my DC books, my Marvel books, my Image books if I had them, whatever I was buying, I would pick them all up on Wednesdays. Now it's like, do people need to go multiple times a week? Do people just wait and let it build up and they're a week behind on one or the other, on a Tuesday books or Wednesday books? If they're coming multiple times a week, that's potentially great for the retailers because it's more business. If people are waiting and they're just a week behind, then I don't know. I get why I wish they were still the same day. I think it's weird.
And like you said, COVID, these discussions, like when DC dropped it, it was like June or July that they dropped this stuff. Like them suddenly saying, oh, it was COVID. No, these discussions had been happening for a while with DC behind the scenes. Marvel, they were having these discussions. They saw what happened with DC and the stumbles. DC had a lot of stumbles when this came down at that point. They've since kind of worked them out a little bit, but there's been a lot of delays. We had that huge snowstorm that delayed a lot of stuff. We've got a lot of complaints from Diamond that's saying they're not shipping on time, too many damaged books. They're not innovating, their systems at that point. We don't know how much stock they have. That's what thing Penguin's kind of promoting, saying we know you will see real-time stock, so exactly if you can order more. There's not going to be any They're not going to be as much quote unquote guesswork. So we'll just have to see. Again, for some of us that are still in physical, like I'm some physical, but I'm more and more wrapping up my physical collection and moving more and more towards digital. But it's a changing industry. Like you said, what's going to happen with the independent publishers? Because right now, Penguin Random House is in the middle of an acquisition of Simon & Schuster. Simon & Schuster owns Boom Studios. So Penguin Random House could become the new sole exclusive person of Boom Studios. There's your independent publisher.
Why wouldn't they at this point? You'd almost expect once any existing contracts were up for them to move over. So probably isn't going to be immediate, but as soon as that Diamond contract is up for renewal, you would expect them to move over at that point. And when that happens, Diamond doesn't have DC, they don't have Marvel, they don't have Boom. What's that leave them with? Image and small stuff?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see in the next year. So I don't believe I am not the one saying doom and gloom. Diamond is over. I do not think that. I think Diamond is just kind of figuring out, because again, they're not technically losing Marvel. They're just not the exclusive distributor anymore.
Well, that's
So
true.
they're still working with Marvel. So it's going to be different. They're a wholesaler. So people can still work with that. So it's going to be interesting. Like I said, I think Diamond's going to be around. It's just going to be different, obviously. So, but you know, business is business, right? It's not personal, it's business these days, and they're trying to save their bottom line.
Yeah, and I'm now wondering if at some point Penguin will just cut off Diamond as a wholesaler option as well. Like maybe down the line, like use this as a bridge to kind of lessen the blow, if you will, and then cut them off down the line.
Yeah, it very much could be, because again, it's just they may have a contract that they can't totally break. I don't know. I don't even know the inside, and we're never going to release like DC totally breaking contract. Was their contract up for renewal, or I can't remember, or they just completely broke and it was just worth it to them to break it. You know, be interesting
Yeah.
to see. But all right, that's all the news. Light news week at this point. So we're gonna take our last ad break before we get into Fact or Fictions and our new comic book corners. So again, listeners, these keep the lights on in the Geek Ultimate Alliance network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, but they can be a bit loud. So turn that volume down before they come on, so you don't blow out those eardrums. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. All right. So let me, since I was not prepared, let me pull up these Fact or Fictions. We'll see how we're doing. How the chat doing today? Everyone doing well? All right. Pull this up. All right. So these were my questions excuse me, my Fact or Fictions. And last I checked, I think one of them was a 50-50, if I'm not mistaken. You know, gotta love those when they come down. So, all right, here we go. The Infinity Stones will come back into play in the MCU within 10 years. 65% said fact, 35% said fiction. I think we all were fact on that one.
Yeah. Yeah. We were.
Here's our 50-50. The MCU will not reboot two series, The Runaways or Cloak and Dagger, but will instead bring some of these characters into the MCU as supporting cast for other shows and or movies. That was a 50-50 split.
Yeah, I don't. We're not going to have a new Runaway show anytime soon. Let's just go with that.
Yeah, well, we might have a Cloak and Dagger. That might be salvageable.
Maybe.
And then the last one, after Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, Marvel will bring a recurring show or anthology series focused on exploring characters in the multiverse to Disney Plus. 69% said fact, 30% said fiction. We are holding on true. This multiverse is not just a one-off.
Could be fun. So let's hope it happens.
Mm-hmm. All right, so you've got some Fact or Fictions for me.
I do. I got a few for you. The first two kind of have a theme to them. And the third one is, well, it's from a sketchy rumor, but we're going to bring it up anyway. All right. So number one is after Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, a member of the Guardians will formally join the Avengers. And I don't just mean like in the portal sense, Avengers Assemble, you're all Avengers because you're fighting for us. I mean like truly like Drax, for example, but it could be any of them, will join the Avengers.
Right now, I'm going to go fiction. I don't, just knowing the current makeup, I'm not saying, I think there might be some one or two new Guardians joining in 3. I could definitely see that. The current lineup that we have, I don't see any of them. They'll join up for like an end game kind of movie at that point, but I don't think any of them formally would fit really well in an Avengers lineup.
Ultimately, I think I agree with you. I got to go fiction on myself here. It'd be fun, but I feel like for most of them, like they're aliens. They live in space. They hop planet to planet. I don't see them wanting to tie down to just Earth because right now there's only one, half Earthling on the team. If anything, I think the other is more likely where an Avenger will go into space with the Guardians.
Yeah,
but I didn't want to go with that one. I purposely went with the other way.
Yeah, no, I like the idea of it. The current makeup of it, hard to me to see pick one of them that would be fine. Even Drax, I'd say like, yeah, I don't think that's going to go well on Earth.
Be funny though. Okay,
Yes.
my next one, John Walker will join the Avengers.
John Walker will join the Avengers. I'm trying to separate my my again, he does a really good job with the character. My despise of the character right now because he does such a good job and I'm not supposed to like him. I don't want to have someone on the team I really just don't like. I know in the comics he led the Avengers at some point. I mean, that West Coast Avengers story, Vision Quest, like he joined up.
He
joined up at that point. I am going to go fiction on that one. I don't want to see it. I'm not saying I can't be sold on it. I'm going to go with my heart on this one and say fiction.
This one I got to go with fact. I think he is going to join the Avengers. I don't think he will join the Avengers as Captain America, which is why I wanted to be specific with John Walker.
Mm-hmm.
I think he will go with a different name, probably U.S. Agent. I know he went by, is it Super Patriot, I think, for a little while in the comics. Mm-hmm. But I'm assuming it'll be U.S. Agent because that's what he's more known for. I think he's joining up. Not necessarily the West Coast Avengers, but he's joining.
Do you see in this one, because I know in the comics, I'm sidetracking a little bit, do you see, we got introduced to his wife. In the comics, his family kind of bites it in the comics at one point and kind of sends him over the edge. Do you see anything happening to his wife that kind of sends him over the edge?
There's the whole thing of don't reveal your secret identity because you got to protect those you love. His name is out there. And I know Steve's was too, but Steve wasn't married or anything. He wasn't married. He didn't have kids or anything like that.
He was the one that said, like, be careful, hide your identity because to protect your loved one. He really didn't have quote unquote loved ones. Yeah, he had a little moment with Sharon. But no one saw that but Bucky.
We don't like to talk about that. That's no.
It's not as grody. It's kind of a weird. I don't know if it's as grody as Luke kissing Leia, but
it's not quite that level. But it's the fact that you're even questioning it. It's why we don't talk about that.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm gonna say yes. I do think that something will happen to his wife.
Mm-hmm.
Will it be in this show? I'm not willing to say that, but I think something will happen to her.
But sorry to sidetrack. It just came to my mind at that point. I think, it could be interesting. So, all right, what's your last one?
All right, so there was a rumor from a site with a Twitter account with like 2 followers. So I'm not even willing to call it a rumor, but just the idea.
All right,
the idea in my head did think me. It's like it's possible. So I want to put it on the table. Tom Holland will not be the Spider-Man in the MCU team up with a Spider-Man. The current deal is a solo movie and a team up. And I'm saying that team up will be somebody else as Spider-Man other than Tom Holland.
God, that's like a tongue twister.
It is. You gotta qualify.
So say it one more time. I want to make sure I'm following this.
While we will see Spider-Man in a team up movie, Tom Holland will not be in the suit. Let me phrase it that way.
I'm gonna go 3 for 3 and say fiction. I think there's still more growth to Tom Holland as a character, as Peter Parker, than this third movie. I personally have not seen enough to say that he is done at this point. I know he said he's currently not under contract, and that's true. He's not under contract for what his quote unquote contract is. But I think Sony wants to continue this relationship, and Tom Holland is not done wearing the Spidey suit.
I really hope you're right. I hope you're right.
So too.
But I'm going to say fact just because, just to be a little contrarian. And like you said, his contract is up technically. And so, or at least that's what he says it was. And I don't know. His contract is up. And Clay says, give it to Toby. For the record, the account was referencing Toby appearing in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. When I saw this, it dawned on me, technically that would fulfill the contract. And it would be really interesting. And one thing we never thought about was, Sony wants, they got to want Tom Holland Spider-Man with Venom, right? They got to want him with Morbius and stuff like that. What if he crosses universes and part of the the switch there is we're going to let you have Miles for a while. We'll let you have a different Peter for a while, something along those lines. We've already got into the Spider-Verse. Like the audience is ready for it. I just, ever since I read that, I can't shake this thought of like, this is on the table as a possibility. It's not what I want, but it's a possibility. So I'm going fact that's going to happen.
It definitely, you know, you're right. In a world where anything is possible, yes, that I agree that it's, I say fiction because again, these ones I'm following my heart on this one. My head's not getting in the way on this one. The All in the Game says the deal is getting renewed. We're going through that drama again. I don't think we're going to go through the exact drama again. I think, and we've seen a lot of little signs here or there that Disney and Sony, I think I wouldn't say they're buddy, but I think it's a lot better than where Tom Holland's going to have a midnight drunken cry session on the phone and begging people to come back together. I don't think we're going to have that again.
I hope not.
That was so
horrible. That was, I hated it when all that happened. Yes, I would love that recording. I would pay good money to hear that conversation. Oh man, I would pay way more money than I should on something like that to hear that conversation. The divorce, as they called it, I don't want him to go through that. It was an ugly time. It was an ugly look for Spider-Man fandom at that time, for the MCU fandom. I don't think the fans handled it very well. Let's not go through that. But it does seem like right now Disney and Marvel are playing nice to each other. Let's hope that happens again. Fanboy Clay, not my Spider-Man, boycott Sony. The boycott Sony thing was absolutely ridiculous and absurd. That made me so mad. It's like, that doesn't accomplish anything. Don't get me started. I hate that.
Because boycotting things, just does so well.
It's not how it works.
It's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. All right, so we will post those Sunday afternoon, so y'all can vote on that and see exactly where y'all stand. And I'll see. I'm kind of like you, Brent. I kind of see how the week turns out and sees what kind of trending at that point. I'll have to watch how Twitter wants to just post. Now we got this covered. I don't want to post that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
as factor fictions, because that's guaranteed most of the time fiction.
Yeah, no joke. It's just that idea has not left my head since I saw it the other day. I've thought about it way too much. I've given it way too much time.
Yeah, it's dominated your thinking. So, all right. So we have our new comic book corner. We've taken, Travis and I did a little bit of a, trip down what if lane just to kind of continue on. But now we've chosen the Ultimate Universe. The fans chose the Ultimate Universe, and the listeners chose the Ultimate Six. So this was basically we call this the Ultimate Six preview, the prelude to what's going on. So because the series was technically a mini series 1 through 7, but this was in Ultimate Spider-Man proper number 46, issue 46. And I like within the issue, we're going 46 issues. There's obviously some stuff that's gone down with Peter Parker. And if you've been reading along, very short story. Prior what happened to this, we got the ultimate introduction of Otto Octavius, Doc Ock. And so it goes into like what happened, what he's been going after. And this is basically kind of like the ending of that arc, but was kind of going behind the scenes that you weren't seeing in the previous issue and what it's leading towards. Yeah,
as I remember, the Doc Ock story ends with Peter just trying to get back home. Mm-hmm. And we see that here, but this issue is from a different perspective. It's Sharon Carter at a debriefing about what she called a giant PDA. The whole thing was a big PDA. And
I'm sorry, Sharon Carter, this looks like Mary Jane grown up.
It does look like Mary Jane grown up. Yeah, it's like you see her picture and it's like, who is this? You have no idea who it is, they tell you. But, Bendis, I know his style isn't for everybody, but I tell you, nobody does a Talking Heads issue better than he does.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody. And that's what this was. Yeah, there was some action mixed in with it, but a whole chunk of it was Talking Head stuff. And I love the style of it. And I'm going to be honest, when you told me 46 was the prelude issue, I'm like, okay, I don't remember what 46 was. And then I saw the cover. I'm like, well, it's a great cover, but it's not quite telling me. Aftermath, though, was the name of the arc. And I'm like, oh, wait, Aftermath, that I remember. And sure enough, you see that first page. I'm like, yes, it is. I've always enjoyed this particular issue quite a bit. It's just, It's fun. You do get some Spider-Man stuff, but like Spider-Man is a side character in this story,
Mm-hmm.
really.
And their Shield is there. Sharon Carter's there to basically, Justin Hammer kind of got used, and Otto in his messed up mind blamed, and I think incorrectly from what I remember that he was responsible for Otto's accident that led him to this when it wasn't true. But he revealed that he'd been doing these kind of meta-human experiments. And so Shield basically it got broadcast. So Shield's going in to kind of shut this down and take whatever Hammer had been doing to these people. And Sharon at the end just says, we got to take them all out, like permanently, like off the board, kill them. But she's basically there to lock it down. And we get introduced to our, this was what was cool about the Ultimate line. Like, what's the next Ultimate character we're going to be? And we get introduced to the Ultimate version of Flint Marko, the Sandman.
Yeah, like in the middle, like he was at Hammer Industries, and like he basically, they didn't realize it, but they set him loose, thinking he was being held captive. And
Agent Wu is.
I noticed that, and I didn't really know about Agent Wu when I read this. The first few times, like to me, he's a more recent character. Like definitely of the last 10 years, which this issue is older than that. Agent Wu, though, yeah. So we've got some Dr. Octopus action, we've got some Sandman, and now it's like, oh, no wonder this is prelude to the Ultimate Six.
Yeah, and I don't remember, like, they definitely, if I remember correctly, the Sandman did not have this kind of serious record going on. Like, he was a bad guy. He always came off to me like just a petty thief, bank robber, nothing serious. Like this, he's got some serious stuff going on in his record. Like basically Sharon Carter is almost a despicable human being.
Yeah, no, he was always more of like the petty crook who just keeps running back into Spider-Man or whoever, and he happened to have some powers. No, like here he is definitely a different level up. And as you look at it, it's like Sandman is incredibly powerful as a character, or he can be. He just doesn't often utilize it that way. Here he really showcases what he can do with his sand abilities.
And it's not Mysterio.
No. No, it's not. It's not.
But you see, Spider-Man comes back, is in the area, takes down, like quote unquote, takes down Flint Marko. He comes back, uses the water at that point, and then one of the scientists uses, I guess, some sort of demeculaire kind of gun, and takes down Flint and puts him down. But it kind of gets the preview, and I think it's Sharon's warning. Is just like, you're talking about like keeping these people locked up. Are you kidding me? We understand that Spider-Man's is one of the good guys. Okay, I accept that, not willingly, but Flint Marko is not a good guy. He gets out, it's not going to be robbing banks. He's going to be killing people. And so she's saying we got to put him down permanently. That's what she wants to do. She wants to kill him. Yeah,
it was like Fury gave a pass to Spider-Man. And it's what she says, something along those lines. But she flat out says, Doc Ock, the Sandman, destroy them. She doesn't even say kill them. She doesn't say depower them, destroy them. She's not messing around.
And it's almost like, and again, this is our introduction to Sharon Carter in this universe. It's almost like there's more going on in her background.
Yeah, and I don't really remember. She appears other times, but I don't ever remember learning a ton about her past throughout the Ultimate Universe.
Yeah, so it just seemed like just that anger is just like, yeah, you saw Sandman, it does his record and I don't think he killed anyone in this issue. He hurt a bunch of people, but didn't kill anyone. Well, I take it back. He didn't he kill one? I think he killed one of the.
Yeah, I think he did.
Yeah, with his sand, like suffocating one of the guys. Like he ended up like spitting out one of the bullets. He ended up suffocating one of the two. So he did kill. Take it back. He's still a killer, but it seemed to have affected her a lot more. And if she was a SHIELD agent, as long as she's been, like, she's seen some pretty awful things, but something rattled her even more about this. So like I said,
well, it is worth noting that like this is all still relatively new to them. Mm-hmm. And so just the idea of these mutates, these people who get these unnatural mutations who developed these powers, which is funny to hear her talk that way. She's like, they weren't born with them like the X-Men or like the mutants were. It's like, well, technically the mutants in this universe, it's a little different there too, but that's a whole nother story.
Yep.
All in all, and I can't let the issue go by without mentioning Mark Bagley. His artwork,
of course,
he is my favorite Spider artist. So I wouldn't say he's my favorite artist for everything, but if it is a Spider-Man character, a Spider-Man related thing, there are other great ones. He's just my favorite. And so I really love just being mesmerized at some of the pages in this book.
Oh yeah, he definitely ranks up there as it may not be my, like you said, my favorite, but probably my most probably of the recent artist of Spider-Man. He's definitely up in my top 5. But yeah, so next week we will start Ultimate 6, number 1. It is a 7-issue series, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, there we go. Got my trade that was signed by Ben that's looking here. Yep, 1 through 7. So we will start that next week with number 1. Again, it's all on Marvel Unlimited. It's not on Comixology Unlimited, but it is available for purchase at that point. So if you want to look on there, but we'll get into the nitty gritty of seeing this Sinister 6 coming online and the ultimate version of it. So I'm excited about that. But episode 42, volume 42 in the books, your first episode. How's it feel? Your first official, not your first episode, but your first official co-hosting episode.
Well, feels pretty good. I think we'll do this next week.
Yeah, we'll keep it going. But again, we'll remind y'all, stay tuned. Stay tuned. We're going to close out, but we want you to stay after the credits. We've got something special planned. But all right, well, in case you can't stick around at that point, for those of you watching us live, tune into the audio. You're going to like it or come back later. But tell everyone how they can follow you and plug your other shows while you're at
it. Sure. I'm other shows are Fans Without Borders and Marvel Squadcast, and then I'm on Twitter at Brentak Prime. So that's the best way to get a hold of me.
And bring up all your Mephisto theories.
Everybody is Mephisto. Everybody is Mephisto.
Everybody.
Everybody. For Falcon and Winter Soldier, there's allegedly some person coming in like the 5th episode. I'm like, well, they've got to be Mephisto, right? Because it's either Mephisto or it's Red Skull. I don't know. It could be the aerospace engineer, though. Let's find out.
Or what was it? Zoloff.
Maybe it's Quicksilver, the real Quicksilver. Who knows?
The real one, yeah.
It could be Ralph Boner back. That'd be
exactly. He wanders in. He's the real leader of the Flag Smashers.
He's gonna be the Agent Coulson of the Disney Plus shows. Ralph Boner.
Look at that. Look at that. We've connected the dots.
It's all connected.
Yes, you can follow me on Twitter at Chris Falcon. You can follow this podcast on Twitter at Marvel A Podcast. You can email the show at marvelalliancepodcast@gmail.com. You can follow the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at GUA Pod Network. Feel free to tweet, email if you want to provide feedback, ask questions, fact or fictions, propose when you think Mephisto or the Red Skull or any of these people are going to show up on Falcon and Winter Soldier. Bring those theories to us. You can please continue to rate and review the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Apple Podcasts or whichever platform of choice may be. Thank you all, listeners. Thank you all for joining us in the live chat. Thank you all for listening. Stay safe out there. And as always, as Stan the Man would say, Excelsior, true believers. All right. For those of you that have stuck behind, we're going to go a little off brand. It's a Marvel Alliance show, but Brent and I can't wait to talk about this. We can't wait. We have something planned. We're still working on it, but we have to take a few minutes to talk about a superhero show that premiered on Friday on Amazon Prime, Invincible.
Thursday night.
Yes, Thursday night. I dropped that. I told you all, said the bets are on. Amazon loves dropping things. They'll do it this week. They will do it every single week.
I didn't know they did that, but I was so excited when you told me it's out. I'm like, oh my God. Watched all 3 episodes, and I tell you, let's just give a spoiler warning just in case.
Yes.
But I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Because there are a couple things here and there I could nitpick, sure. But overall, they nailed the spirit of who these characters were perfectly. They were these characters. They just nailed it. Oh my gosh, it was so good.
Oh yeah, and the artwork, it is a great homage to the art in the comics from Otley, Walker. I think again, they both mirror each other. I know Otley stayed on the title obviously the longest when Walker couldn't stay on, but man, they did a great job, and I wasn't expecting, and nor did I want a straight adaptation from a straight page panel to screen. This was a very good adaptation, and the changes they did, particularly with the alien invasion, I really liked what they did. Yeah, I thought that was a good change for them.
It just worked. Like, they kept the highlights, but they kind of mixed up the order of some things, changed a little bit, and the changes were so good. But there are other things that were basically the same and ripped right out of it, like Alan the Alien. I love Alan the Alien, and like the whole like bit with him coming, like the coalition of planets sending him, and it's like, oh, Earth, this isn't Earth or whatever. I love that they already included that. If anything, it moved a little faster than I expected it to. Like, I think initially I wouldn't have been surprised if like 2/3 of the way through the episode is when we get the bit with him throwing the trash can or throwing the trash bag, where he realizes he got his parents. Like, they really did that pretty quickly. And I'm not complaining about it, because there's 130, 140 issues of however many comics that they have to pull from.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad they're doing this.
It was good. And again, we said spoilers. I'm going to reveal the big one right there, that at the end of the first episode, we saw the one that took a number of issues to get to, of Omni-Man not being the person who we think he is when he takes out the Guardians of the Globe.
So many people, oh my gosh, the end of the first episode. It's like, man, and you guys haven't even seen anything yet. Like, you think Omni-Man is bad, just wait for some other characters that are coming down the line. And it's fun, it's like, because obviously it's the JLA, it's the Justice League, like that's who the Guardians of the Globe were. And then just seeing like what would happen if the Superman really did want to take them out, and he just brutalized them.
Oh yeah, and I love how tongue-in-cheek they are about, they're very self-aware on the show. I love the joke, the ongoing joke with the title card. Like, anytime they say, how about this? I think I'm going to call myself, and then they get the title card with the splash of blood.
Did you notice the splash of blood there was more of it on like the second episode and the third episode? And it's like, man, if they keep going that, by the time they get to the 8th, it's going to just be red, just covered in red.
I think you're onto something, because again, we know at some point there's going to be a fight, a very brutal fight that is on the horizon. We've said this is going to be quick. We don't have many notes. The Muller twins. I've had a few people who have never read the comic, stuff like that, say, I really like the Muller twins. I said, good, because if it's anything like the comic, you're going to be seeing them a lot.
Yes, a lot of them.
But I think the voice casting was spot on. I really like J.K. Simmons as Omni-Man. I like Stephen Yeun as Invincible. What's his demon, our Etrigan, basically demonic demon.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, he really only shows up in those earlier, like, you don't see him that often throughout the series. Oh my gosh, that's good.
Something else, figure it out.
Okay, well then I'll mention this. You remember the bit in the comics early on when he goes to have some comics signed, and they like reuse a bunch of panels as they talk about comic artists reusing panels to save time and money? I did have the thought of, there were a couple times where it looked like they were doing that with the animation where like their heads barely moved and stuff. And then I was like, I'm sure this truly is save time and money, but I'm giving it a pass because of the meta joke in the comic, that we haven't seen them do that joke in the show, but like where the comic talked about the artist reusing panels to speed things up. I'm like, I found that bit funny there. To me, it's like, I'm going to just pretend it's paying an homage to that joke, even if it really isn't. And I'm giving him a pass for it. Invincible blinders are on. They get a pass.
Yes. Clancy Brown. Thank you. Mr. Lex Luthor himself at that point. That was a voice. And yes, I'm glad you brought this up, Clay. The changes that happened chronologically with different characters, making William Gay, that was very subtle. And I was like, oh, okay, we're going there. But William is so much of a bigger character in the comic. He is really on the sidelines in these first 3 episodes. He is not as big of a factor as he was in the comics as Mark's friend. Amber being black, great. Amber can be basically anyone. It's not necessarily tied to any race or anything. So I thought it would, and it works. They did a very good job continuing that character.
William, you're right. He wasn't in it much, but right now he doesn't know the secrets.
True.
And when he finds out the secrets is really when he becomes a bigger part.
But yeah, so again, we just wanted a quick discussion. I'm sold. I think they did a good job. And one of the things I'll say is that from what I've heard, the movie is still on the table. And I think that's one of the reasons why Seth Rogen is in it. I think they're still trying to develop the movie. So that's interesting. I thought that
Kirkman confirmed on Fat Man Beyond, whatever the Kevin Smith show is called, that yes, the movie is still moving forward.
And I like that, some people talk about how, Kirkman's even said, I would love to continue Invincible. I have months of just stories, but this is a way for him to kind of still play with his characters, maybe alter a few things, maybe change a few things, but not necessarily continue the comic series. Because I'm glad the comic is over. I would love more. I'm getting more in this. But he hit a high note and he ended on a high note with it.
Yeah, totally agree. If the comic had ended at 20 issues, I would feel very differently. But well into triple digits for it. Yeah, well into triple digits. It had an amazing run. The status quo actually changes. At this point, I'm very content to have Kirkman tell his new stories and do it in this other format.
Yep, and have those tip that. Again, there's a lot to get into, and this is just one season. Again, Brent and I are working out a plan to talk about this. So we'll once we kind of finalize those ideas, we'll do this. But we want to do this now because we both are big fans of the series. We know a number of people on the network, a number of listeners are. So a little off brand, but be on the lookout. Again, it says Fridays. Amazon did this with The Boys. They do a lot of their series. They do typically sometimes drop these big shows on Thursday nights. So be on the lookout for it dropping on Thursday nights. And but it will definitely be up there on Friday night. So again, we love it. 10 out of 10 for me right now. What about you?
Yeah, I'm with you. 10 out of 10. And you know what? It's off brand, but I'll put an asterisk on that. Invincible has appeared in a Marvel comic book.
That is. Could it be a web slinger?
It was with a web slinger. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. That's what it qualifies. Loophole, maybe. Technicality, sure. He has appeared in a Marvel comic book.
A portal, a multiverse, we're there. So you're right. It is kind of on brand. So, but again, thank you all for sticking with us at this point. A lot of fun, but we'll see y'all next week. Bye-bye.
See ya.